So thank you guys for joining back in the session. So this is session 2. I am having some trouble with my laptop camera, so I won't be able to share screen with you guys. So what I have sent it to you, I have sent an email. You guys can open that in the separate link, and we can just follow that PowerPoint presentation. The appendices are the same. So there are appendices 4, 5, 6, and 7 that we are using it on this one. Again, we are covering a topic on produce, cook, chill, and cook freeze food. It's in a SIT training program, and we are following a competency unit of competency, and the unit sector is hospitality. Competency field is commercial cookery and catering, and we have mentioned the prerequisite units are prepare dishes using basic method of cookery and use hygienic practice for food safety. In our last session, we have covered the first 3 key elements and performance criteria of this unit. So we have covered select ingredient in your workplace when you're doing a bulk cooking. We have covered up select, prepare, and use equipment. So you will be following the direction of your supervisor or your head chef and following and choosing a right equipment according to the need of your recipe. We have covered about how to measure your recipe requirements based on do you have to increase the recipe or decrease the recipe. So we have covered up recipe conversion factor in our last session, and we have provided learning resources in our appendices, and we have covered up also where to store your food products based on perishable and non-perishable goods. How do you identify those based on the ingredients? We have covered how do you identify spoilage in any perishable goods or even non-perishable. We have talked about how do you use any equipment safely in your workplace, and we have talked about some of the standards that and state and tertiary legislation or even Commonwealth legislation that come into place. So we have talked about Racial Discrimination Act 1975 Commonwealth, Sex Discrimination Act 1984 Commonwealth, Disability Discrimination Act 1992 Commonwealth, and Privacy Act 1988 Commonwealth. When we look into the workplace health and safety, we always look into how to work safe, work health and safety regulations, and we have covered about how do you clean your equipment safely according to the manufacturing instruction. So the third topic we have covered in our last session was about how do you sort and assemble bulk ingredients according to food production sequencing. So based on when you're doing a catering, you have to do a bulk cooking, so you you'll be lifting or carrying, say, 25 kilo of flour, 25 kilo of sugar, and equally like a 20 kilo meat. So we have covered how do you carry safely, or how do you lift any box in your workplace safely without hurting yourself, and using the right posture. We have talked about clean and cut bulk ingredient as required using basic culinary methods and cuts and culinary standards. That's also include any safety, hygiene, and cleanliness. We have covered how do you minimize waste to maximize profitability to food item produce. So it's very important in your workplace when you're dealing with a food product. It's easy to throw a lot of stuff away, and that costs money to the business. So you have to always aware about not to. You have to aware about how do you decrease these wastage, and if you're not sure about it, we always follow your supervisor for any instructions. And also we have covered about how do you identify spoilage in your food products, and we have watched a couple of videos. We have done we have done a questionnaire on that. So now on this part of the session, we'll be covering the next part of the unit, which is cook and portion bulk food items, chill food and store under refrigeration, package, freeze and store cooked food, and transfer, cook, chill and cook, freeze food. So in the first part of the session, we have covered for the basic the first step of how do you cook it. In the second session, we are talking about when you actually preparing something, you actually cooking it, and once it's cooked, how you are able to chill that product, how you are able to transfer that product, and how do you able to package that product once it's cooked. So the first step is about identifying your ingredients. The second step is about cooking, chilling, and processing. So that's why we have divided into 2 sessions, so we can cover these parts. All right, so when we look into cook, chill, cook and portion bulk food items, so the first point we'll be covering up is produce food using cookery method that achieve desired product characteristics. So we know about the different cooking methods we use in the kitchen, and it is one of the prerequisite of this session as well, or of this unit as well. So we do baking. So there will be products when you'll be using a baking technique for your catering or for your company. So you'll be baking a bread, could be baking a pastries, could be baking a cakes, and you could be baking any pastry based items. So you need to understand it, how the basic of baking works, using the right equipment. Again, going back, how do you use it, a correct temperature, correct equipment for your product. Blanching. So when you're blanching something, blanching is again going back to, so you blanch it in hot water something quickly and then cool it in ice bath. And boiling something, you just boil it till it's cooked. Braising, any protein or any ingredient you want to braise covered in a liquid in the oven. So it's normally uses for the large cuts of meats or any protein that takes longer to cook. So it can be braising, can be done, a slow braising can be done for like 6 to 8 hours. Char grilling, something that will be quick cook. You normally char grill your steaks. And deep frying. So deep frying, you will be you can deep fry anything, something that can be submerged in hot oil of temperature 180 degree or above, and you cook it based on individual ingredients and timing. The next cooking method is poaching. So poaching is something you do gently, and so like for example, a poached eggs, you do it for 3 minutes for a soft boil, or you can poach a fish. So something that's very sensitive, or something that are easy to break, you do poaching instead of boiling. Roasting some can be done in an oven, uncovered, and sous vide technique is something that you seal it in a bag in a vacuum chamber, take all and put it with the flavors you want it to add to the dish characteristics, and then you can submerge that again in a in a in a hot water bath circulation in a controlled temperature environment. So sous vide and boiling or even poaching can be done using water, but again in the boiling the water has to boil, so the water boils above 100 degree, whereas poaching can be gently poached in the water or in a stock, whereas sous vide you can control the temperature, so you can cook something for longer, say for 65 degree in a longer temperature controlled environment. Steaming, you can steam in a pot, you can steam in the oven. And stewing is similar to your braising, and you do stew meats. So these are some of the examples of different style of cooking method you will be using, or you probably have used it in the past, and you'll be using it when talking about cook and portions bulk food items. Does anyone have any questions so far? All good? No worries. Thank you. So the next step we will be following is follow standard recipes and make food quality adjustment within scope of responsibility. So follow standard recipe. We have covered that in our last session about when we're talking about selecting an ingredient based on the recipe. So we look into a standard. There's, especially in a catering businesses or in a bulk cooking business, there is a recipe, set standard recipe, and we have talked. You can see it in your appendix. We have provided a recipe cost sheet. It will tell you a recipe number, tell you about recipe name, what recipe you're making, number of portions, or how many portions you will be getting. You'll be getting out of that recipe, and what is the portion size of that recipe. Will be then ingredient description, so what kind of ingredient you are using in that recipe, what weight, their measurement, what is the percentage of wastage and usable percentage, what will be their purchase waste, and the total cost of quantity. Then in the recipe cost sheet you will have a menu selling price, how much labor it costs you to produce that particular recipe, what is the food cost percentage of that particular recipe in accordance to your business, GST inclusive, so how much GST is either it's a GST inclusive or exclusive, how much time it has taken, so it's with the labor cost it will tell you about how much time it has taken you to prepare the dish, how much revenue we are getting out of that dish, and so then we'll tell you about total cost of preparation. So this is cover in your recipe cost sheet or standard recipe card. It will tell you all these basic requirements. So when you have your standard recipe card, it will tell you can see the recipe card and you can identify all these different requirements. It is important to maintain all your recipe documented. Again, first for your training purposes. Second, to understand if, especially now, if someone is allergic, you can always check back to see if there is any ingredient you're using that can cause allergic reaction to your customers. So you can write it, according to your food standard of Australia and New Zealand. It is recommended that you write all your recipes, all your ingredients in your pre-packed food, so people can make aware decisions based on that. So when you talk about within the scope of responsibility, that's what we mean is like we're using a quality ingredients. We're being responsible towards our customer, telling them everything correctly so they can make a informed decision. You can find these in your appendices. We can look into maintain optimum quality of food for cook, chill, and cook freeze process. So what we'll do is we'll be watching a video and see if we can identify. So I'll be showing you this video. So what we are covering with this when we're watching this video is about so we'll maintain quality, optimum quality of food for cook, chill, and cook freeze process. So when we talk about the optimum quality, we talk about how long from the day it's been processed to the end date. So we talk about the best before date of that product. So we, again, going to the ANZAC food standard, it is mandatory to write an expiry date or best before date of that product when we are selling it, say for example ready to eat meals and or any frozen meals available for customers. So how do you maintain this quality of food? So what you do is, we'll quickly have a look at this video that will give you a...
Hi, Chef Tim Franks from Flavor Seal. Today we're going to make a better kitchen using our line of Cook Chill products. When you think of Cook Chill, you probably think of industrial kitchens with large production facilities. But whether you serve one meal or a million meals, Cook Chill is a great way to make and store a variety of food safely. And when you need them, they're ready to go.
So what they're talking about the equipment that's available in the industry, and that you can cook something, that you can process it and chill it fast so that it's not sitting in a danger zone for too long, and it will be safe for people to consume later on. So it's just talking about, sorry. So it'll tell you about what equipment they're using it, and we'll...
A million meals. And when you need them, that's heated. First, we're going to pour the product that's heated up to 180 degrees, like soup, that's heated up to 180 degrees, like super sauce, directly into the Cook Chill bag.
So
the ring stand securely holds the bag open, leaving your hands free to help with food. The bag can be filled with a pitcher or a ladle, whatever works best for you. Next, carefully remove the filled bag from the ring stand. The bag should be removed by gently pulling along the outside of the bag until the bag is free of the ring stand. Grab the bag along the sides at the level of the liquid. Fold the top of the bag over into an L. This helps keep the air out of the bag as you're sealing it. Slide the bag into the sealer, leaving about 4 inches of space between the top of the liquid and the seal line. After the bag is sealed, you can see that the extra space in the bag lets the product lay flat. The goal is to make sure that the bag is no more than 2 inches thick in the middle. This ensures safe and even cooling of the product while it's in the ice bath. If the center is thicker than 2 inches, the product will not get cold. The ice bath cools the product to below 40 degrees, which is the recommended temperature for safe handling practices. This is Chef Tim Franks for Flavor Seal, helping you make a better kitchen. Thank you for joining us.
So Flavor Seal, again, it's a company that make a products technology that helps big companies or even catering businesses to make their product as safe as possible for consumption for customer in a later stage. So what we've just seen, we've seen an example of how can you cook something and able to portion it. So it's very important to have a look like it's a hand-free portioning. You can put it in your bag, you can ziplock that bag or seal that bag, and it has to be flat. The center shouldn't be more than 2 centimeter, otherwise it will take longer for ingredient to be chilled, and the longer it sits in a danger zone, which we will talk later, the bacteria multiply faster in that zone, so which is 5 degree between 6 degrees. So this is your danger zone. Any food that sits in that zone for too long has higher chances for or spoilage or make someone sick. So these are the equipment we can use it to make sure that our quality is optimum and quality is good for later consumption of the food.
See you next time.
So he said cook food to specified temperature for cook, chill and cook freeze production and within safe tolerance for microbiological changes. So when we talk about the microbiological changes, we talk about these bacteria growth, and bacteria loves, so we call it a danger zone. So which you probably all know about it as a part of your previous training and your experience. 5 degree to 60 degree, we call it a danger zone where bacteria just loves it. Like, it's a perfect environment. It's right temperature. They got plenty of food if they need it, surrounded with that to multiply. So they can multiply in millions really quick. And if you're selling that food later, so if you're sitting that food in that danger zone for too long, you're giving those bacteria a chance to multiply faster. And then you are freezing those food and packaging it and selling it to the customer, who they will be, either cooking it, recooking it, or reheating it, and may get sick. So it is very important to chill your product as quick as possible. The next topic we are covering is chill food and store under refrigeration. So now we have cooked our product. Now we're talking about how can we chill it in a faster way and store it under proper refrigeration and in the proper unit. So we use blast chiller. So if you have seen, when you go back to your kitchen, you will see there will be some cooling units installed. So as you've seen, you have your Rendezvous, big Bain Marys, and big pots to cook your bulk items. You will also have a bigger units or equipment that can able to chill food faster within an appropriate time. So water bath chilling is a new technology method that's been using it. It's been new, and whereas the food can be in wet pack, which have we just seen it, and be submerged in that water in an ice bath, and it can bring down the temperature in a really short period of time, so giving bacteria less time to multiply. Select appropriate container for storage and label and code clearly. So So we're gonna again watch this video and we'll tell you about how these technology are available within these new equipments.
DC Norris sous vide systems, the key to precision cooking. DC Norris sous vide cooking is a revolutionary technique which eliminates guesswork and allows you to cook foods with unrivaled taste and texture. Perfectly cooked steak, tender chicken breasts, and ribs with the meat falling off the bone. Foods are sealed under vacuum in airtight plastic pouches and then submerged in a DC Norris cook tank, where they are slow cooked at low temperatures. The cook tank is held at a precisely controlled low temperature, ensuring foods are cooked evenly and to perfection every time. Products can even be left to cook overnight unattended with guaranteed results. Sous vide offers food producers many benefits. Savings of between 10 and 20% are possible from increased meat yields, control of ingredient inventory, and the use of standard recipes. Essential vitamins and juices are locked in the vacuum pouch. This method improves texture, intensifies the flavours, and preserves the nutritional quality of foods. Step 1. Raw ingredients are prepared, marinated and seasoned. Step 2. They are then packed into plastic pouches and air is removed using a vacuum.
So just a quick, so what they're talking about a technology called a quick chill sous vide method. So we have all used the sous vide methods before for cooking, and it's the same process, but instead of cooking in a sous vide circulating bath or controlled temperature, this is more high tech. So it has all the softwares in place, which you can number your temperature, how long you're going to cook that product, what kind of product you're cooking it as well. So it has all these software pre-installed and they can work automatically. So you again seal it in a vacuum bag with all the flavors you wanted in a small portions, and you probably have seen it in supermarkets these days that these products are readily available just to cook and heat. So this is how they use it, by using these equipments. They then submerged that in a water bath. So again, it's a water bath, but imagine it's a big unit with a controlled temperature. It'll be cooking for 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, 2 hours, depend on what ingredients we are cooking. And then they're talking about how do you do it. So you're doing a sous vide machine seal.
Step 3. Pouches are placed into the wire baskets in the cook tank. The fully automated stainless steel tank allows preparation of multiple portions in a single batch. Step 4. A temperature probe, which is sealed within the bag, is placed in the core of one of the products and the process is started. Sophisticated systems control equipment and monitor product throughout the entire process. Step 5. Hot water is recirculated, ensuring even heat distribution to ensure there are no hot spots. Step 6. As soon as the product reaches its core temperature, the timer is started. Step 7. After this cook time has elapsed, the water is drained from the tank and is replaced with ambient, which is then chilled to just above freezing. Step 8. Menu items can be served straight away or put into refrigerated storage for up to 45 days. This method ensures perfect results every time. To further improve the efficiency of your production, the cook tank is available with some important additions. Virtual chart recorder for data capture of time and temperature for HACCP. Email or SMS alerts can be set up in the event of any service failures such as power loss. Hot and cold water recovery tanks and associated valves and controls are available to provide a store of water for repeat batches and to save energy and reduce water usage.
So, when you walk into the supermarket, you have seen all these ready-to-meal available. Even for the restaurants now, there's a ready-to-serve food products or just heat these fruit products are available. They are possible by using these technologically advanced equipment, and a lot of there's a market growing. There's a market segment growing for these product these days, as they can last longer. So they are cooking, chilling at the after instantaneously. They've been getting chilled to just below the freezing point without no one is handling them, no one is touching it. So they are in these vacuum chambers, getting cooked, getting cooled down without the development or of any biologically or yeast or bacteria, and they can last up to 45 days. They can readily serve straight to the restaurant. They're already pre-portioned, so restaurant businesses are able to use them directly, as they don't need to put too much pressure on their labor, and that will eradicate the use of skilled labor in your restaurant industry these days. But it's important, they have their instructions as well on there on how to reuse it. The next thing, if you look into your appendix, I have provided you I have provided you with the select appropriate container for storage and label and code clearly. So you will have these containers if you have to store your ingredients in your cool room. To store anything in your freezer, it's appropriate what we have seen before. In the bag, make sure the bags are thin and can be chilled and stored in the freezer straight away. Your containers, you put it away, should be labeled clearly. What are those, when they are made, and again a document stating who made those. And so these help to check if there is any issues with hazard analysis. So this helps to create a hazard analysis critical control point, so you can analyze if there's any hazards in each and every step of your process. You should have a food safety plan of your own. So every workplace is required to have a food safety plan, which is governed by a local council in Victoria or within Australia. You also have a food and health safety supervisor in each and every workplace, and every food handler must be having its own food handling certificate to understand the basic health and hygiene and food safety. Store food dynamically using first in first out method. So we have covered about that why first in first out method is important. Again, because it's important because we don't want to waste anything. We want to make sure that we are using the old product or old raw ingredient or even cooked ingredient first before we use the new one, and it will stop the wastage in your business. So first is first out method FIFO method stands for first in first out, and easy to understand inventory valuation method. So you can evaluate your inventory based on that how much stock you're already carrying, and it helps you to budget and in your procurement processes. Just imagine when you're ordering something, for 100 kilos, 200 kilos for your bulk cooking, you need to understand that you need to make sure that you know how much you're carrying already in your cool room or in your storage. This means that the oldest inventory gets shipped out to the customer before the new inventory. It's very important. The next point is meeting time and temperature standard for storage to minimize spoilage according to food safety procedures and standard. So we have talked about what are the spoilage conditions previously. How do you identify them? What are the ways that you can identify different perishable items that if they are spoiled? Food Act 1984, which controls the sale of food in Victoria and is informed principally by local council. So these are some of the legislations we have to work around and must have it in your business and must follow it. All food businesses in Australia must comply with the Australian New Zealand Food Standard Code. The Food Standard Code is a binational standard that is adopted by all Australian state and territory and New Zealand into their own food legislation. Continually monitor storage temperature to avoid food spoilage, maintaining temperature log. So very important to maintain these documents and especially maintain temperature, and in each and every step you have to monitor it when you're processing, when you're in a facility like Cactus Country or in the businesses that produce cooked, chill, and ready to eat products for their customers, because you need to understand the temperature is very important to play a key role in bacteria growth. So you want to minimize the bacteria growth on your food as much as possible. And if something goes wrong in the future, at least by looking at those records, you can make sure you can work backwards and find out where the problem actually happened and you can fix it. So that's why it's very important to maintain those logs. Is anyone has any questions so far? Everyone understand everything? Yep. And the next topic we'll covering package, freeze and store cooked food. We talked about earlier, select appropriate container for freezer storage and label and code clearly, which we have seen it previously. Meet time and temperature standard for freezer storage to minimize spoilage according to food safety procedures and standard, which we just discussed. Freeze food in batches according to food safety procedures and standard, allowing each freezing cycle to be completed. And place food item in appropriate storage once freezing cycle and labeling are completed. Continually monitor freezer temperature to avoid any food spoilage. So we'll discuss what there's a 5 food safety rule. There's resources in your appendices. It says what are the 5 food safety rules. The core message for the 5 key of the safer food are: keep clean, separate raw and cooked product food, cook your food thoroughly using your temperatures measurements, keep food at safe temperature and use safe water and to chill your food product. You will be just talking about we're just watching a quick how do you freeze your food product.
Kenji Lopez Alt from Serious Eats here, and today we're talking about freezers. Now, freezers are great for long-term storage, but they're only useful if you can defrost food in a timely way and with minimal.
So we're talking about how do you freeze a raw or cooked ingredient. What is the best practices around freezing food?
Loss of quality. So what's the secret? Well, the 2 enemies of frozen food are air and time. So the longer something takes to freeze and defrost, the bigger the ice crystals that form inside it, and those jagged ice crystals can cause cell damage to food, which makes your vegetables turn mushy and your meat turn wet. Meanwhile, too much exposure to air can lead to sublimation, which, nerdy aside, is the direct phase change from a solid, in this case ice, to a gas, in this case water vapor. And that causes freezer burn, and nobody likes freezer burn. So the key to better quality frozen food is to freeze it as fast as possible with as little air exposure as possible. And that means freezing flat, like this. Now let me show you how to do it. Now, take a look. I've got two identical quarts of water here. The only difference was the way in which they were frozen. One of them was frozen flat in this bag, and the other one was frozen in a cylindrical deli container. Now I'm going to leave them out at room temperature, and let's watch what happens.
Both batches look like they're melting well, but after 45 minutes at room temperature, the ice frozen as a cylinder has produced less than a cup of water. Meanwhile, the ice frozen flat has produced over 2. It's melting and freezing twice as fast.
Now, to freeze a solid or semi-solid like ground beef or chili or a thick stew.
So they're talking about timing as well. You know, when you defrost something, it's very important that you thaw those product in a safe manner. They're talking about doing in the room temperature, but normally if you wanted to thaw something, you will be doing it in more controlled environment or in your cool room or in your fridge where the temperature is below 5 degrees or.
You want to start by transferring it to a zipper lock freezer bag, and you specifically want to use a freezer bag because regular zipper lock bags are air permeable.
So they're talking about using a good quality freezer bags, not a plastic bag, because the reason if the thing is sitting in your freezer for too long, air can get in. It can the bag can breaks. You know, when the ice start building on top of it. So you wanted to make sure it's a good quality bag, so it will stop any air getting in and stop your freezer burn.
Bag and flip the lip over just like this so that it stands up nicely and you don't get the lip chunky, and then transfer your food directly to it.
So you're just focusing on the same thing again. Make sure when you freeze something, it's as flat as possible, so it freeze fast and defrost faster in a safe environment. Again, freeze food in batches, so small batches, you know, small portions, or you have to freeze it because it's hard to defrost food or thaw food that's in a big batches, and you cannot able to use it. Bacteria can grow faster on those. Place food item in appropriate storage once freezing cycle and labeling are completed. So, you know, we have to cook it, put it in the appropriate containers or bags for freezing. We have to label it before the freezing process, and then once they are frozen, we have to store them in a clean and good manner, so we can look. It can help to save space as well. Transfer cook, chill, and cook, freeze food. The last point, transfer food from production kitchen to service area and outlay by refrigerated, transport, or insulated container. And again, so, you know, we are talking about it, each and every step we are monitoring. We are maintaining our temperature all the time and managing those records. Check and record temperature level at dispatch and receipt. So once you received, as you maintain those temperature, you know, when you have dispatched something, so when you're putting in the cool room or in the freezer, if there's a separate area, you wanted to check that temperature as well when you're receiving that good. It's same idea when you're receiving any raw ingredients, especially meat or seafood or any frozen product from your supplier. You wanted to make sure you check the temperature so that you are receiving in the right condition. Protect food from dangerous temperature during transfer process. Again, the dangerous temperature we talk about is 5 degree to 60 degree, the danger zone. And we wanted to make sure that we are chilling our food as soon as possible outside the danger zone. So store food in the fridge. So whenever you're storing your food, you have to make sure that you are taking special care of your high risk food as well. meat, dairy, egg, seafood, cooked rice and pastas, and ready-to-eat food such as sandwiches, roll, pizzas. Freezing food safely, storing cooked food safely, avoid refreezing thaw food. So never refreeze your frozen food again. So once, if you're taking a frozen food out, you have thawed it, and if you're not using it, you don't want to re-thaw it, because what it does is it allows bacteria to grow, and it can poison someone. It can, make someone sick. So it's not a good practice to use. Store raw food separately from cooked food, and choose strong non-toxic food storage containers, which we have shown earlier. If you're in a doubt, just throw it out. That's a simple philosophy. Or always check with your supervisor or chef, and always follow those identification. How do you identify the spoilage of a food product, of any ingredients? Is anyone has any questions? So this is, we have just completed our section 2. So we have finished our unit of competency. There will be some assessment in when you're going back to your workplace. So this is more a demonstration class where we have teach you about the basic of these, covering up all those elements. Now when you go back to your workplace, you will be doing some learning activities, saying cookery method identification worksheets, which is available in your appendices, recipe card template, which you have done today, recipe cost formula sheet, which we have done today, baker's formula to adjust recipe workbook, chilling equipment identification, so which we have seen today, and you can also do these identification in your workplace, fact sheets on food storage and labels, which we have covered today, best practices on cook, chill, and freeze food, and temperature zones. There is no assessment for these units. It's just more of skills and knowledge, and some templates and other resources available. Some questions you can always discuss when you go back to your work colleague is why record temperature and correct procedures important, how to identify spoilage, correct way to store food in your workplace, and delivery arrangements of your food products. So for example, from raw ingredients to your cooked ingredients to your frozen. So that's it, guys. So we have covered this unit, produce, cook, chill, and cook, freeze food. We have covered all the 7 elements of this. It started with the raw ingredients. We have worked all the way through to how do you transfer in a more safe manner of your frozen food. And if anyone has any questions, please, or you can always email it to me later if you have any questions about this. All your resources, all the templates we have used today, it's available on your appendices. So if no one has a question, thank you very much for joining your session, and we'll be seeing you. Thank you.
Thank you.